When people think politics, their minds probably jump to national politics and the squabbles between the red team and the blue team. But while they're not nearly as sexy, local politics have an enormous impact on our lives at home. We're talking roads, recreation amenities, events, and of course, our taxes. And Leesburg officials say they're proud to report that the City Commission continues to provide some of Lake County's best municipal services while keeping regionally low ad valorem tax rates. Every year, city and county commissions or councils go through their budgeting processes, which are open to the public, deciding how to allocate funds for the upcoming year. A huge part of that process is setting the millage rate, or tax rate, that municipalities' residents pay. Essentially, your local elected officials decide how much in taxes you pay to help fund the city's annual budget. Joining us now is Al Minner, Leesburg City Manager, to talk to us a little bit more about the process. Thanks for joining us, Al.
Hey, Katie, good to be here. Always fun to come and talk about the city budget, so hopefully we can bring a boring topic to life.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's start off simple. What is a millage rate?
Well, a millage rate is basically the unit of measurement that we do the ad valorem taxes with. So a mill is 1,000, so a millage rate is just that unit. And so we divide that by assessed value or taxable value, and we come up with your tax bill. And then put all the tax bills together and you get the total ad valorem revenue for a municipal corporation.
Gotcha, okay. And how do property values factor in here?
The ad valorem rate is based on property values. So that process all starts really on an annual basis at the Lake County Property Assessor's Office. And of course, Kerry Baker is our property appraiser. So he assesses, his team assesses every parcel in Lake County has an ID number and a tax number, and you have an assessed value, and then you have a taxable value. So your assessed value is pretty close to the actual value of your property, and then after your exemptions, that becomes your taxable value. So then the city takes the millage rate, in our case it's 4.0192 mils. So divide your taxable value by 1,000 and then multiply it by the rate, and that becomes your tax bill. It's super important for homeowners to make sure that you have your homestead exemption, because your homestead exemption gives you the two basic exemptions for school board taxes and then for all other taxing jurisdictions. So school board tax home exemption, homestead exemption is $25,000. So for example, if your house is worth $100,000 and the school board property taxes, you're only taxed at $50,000 of value. Right. So that saves some money. On the other taxing jurisdictions, so that'll be the county, the cities, the special districts, the hospital district, the mosquito control district, all those districts, you get a $50,000 exemption. And then there's other ones too. There's other exemptions for seniors, there's seniors with vets, and it seems like the state legislature comes out with new exemptions every year.
So what would a typical Leesburg resident's tax bill look like?
So as we go through these processes, folks get a trim notice to say from all the government jurisdictions. So you end up getting like a notice that looks something like this. I brought one just for ease of communication here. But so you get a bill or a trim notice like this, and it lists out all the taxing jurisdictions. So for example, you've got the county on there, and the county breaks up into like 3 different ways. They have their general government. So just like the city, you've heard us talk about the general fund all the time. The general fund is general. It does all those different services: police, fire, libraries, parks, rec, the streets. That's all those general services, planning and zoning. Those are all general services. So county has the same thing, and you ad valorem is kind of the basic block for that. So your tax bill will have the county general fund. The county has the ambulance service, which everybody in Lake pays into. It's called an MSTU, a municipal service taxing unit. So everybody pays a millage rate on your property values to get the ambulance service, and then they have a land purchase fund. So actually, those first 3 lines on your bill are all county issues. Then the school board has the same. They have 2 different rates, and then the city, St. John's is in there, Lake County Water Authority, North Lake, and then there's, like down in the next box, there's different assessments. So if you're a county resident, unincorporated, you won't have a city tax, but you'll have another MSTU for some of the other services like the sheriff, and those type of things. In Leesburg, this is a Leesburg tax bill, you'll have a special assessment for our fire assessment fee. So put all those things together and you get your tax bill. So the big thing when everybody comes to these meetings and yells at the city, hey, the city's taxing so much, I've got a $3,000 bill. Remember, the city typically is only about 25% of the bill. Right. So the big guys are the school board and the county. So there's a lot of components that goes into that bill, and it all starts with the property assessments, and it goes through the truth and the trim process, truth and millage, and so it's pretty much full disclosure. So our process goes, it's pretty long and has a lot of stuff in there, as you can see.
Yeah. And how is the millage rate determined?
So every year the city establishes the annual budget, and the millage rate or ad valorem taxes are established in that process. So we've got the big giant, 5,000 page book, which is our annual budget, which is online. So if folks are interested in checking out where the city's going for fiscal year 23, all that's posted. So the general fund is where you find the ad valorem rate, and believe it or not, this year we've got proposed, it's about 168 million, almost 170 million dollar budget, and the general fund is really only a small portion of that big giant book. So the general fund's about 30 million. Of that, ad valorem rates are about 6 million. So it's really a small piece, but it's probably the most commonly known. So every year we look at our general fund services, which include police, fire, and all those things we talked about a little bit ago, and we basically back into the number. The commission's pretty sensitive to not wanting to increase taxes and keep taxes, that burden low, and to try to use other revenues. But at the end of the day, we really want the general fund to stand alone. We don't want to use other sources, Leesburg Special, and all the different services and enterprise funds that we do have. So we try to manage those as a utility and keep the general fund on its own. But every year we kind of back into that number. We try to set it kind of first by how much we need. And so that's how we do it.
You guys are going through the budget process right now. What millage rate is the city considering?
Right now the city's looking at a millage rate of 4.0192.
And is that considered a tax increase?
Unfortunately, Katie, yes, that is a slight tax increase. So what the state process does is the cities or a municipal corporation is only, a tax increase is in reference to the amount of revenue that you generated the previous year, less new growth. So for example, if a city brought in $100,000 in ad valorem revenue, year one, year two, you're only supposed to bring in $100,000 in new revenue again. But then remember, everything gets reset, your property values increase hopefully every year, and then people move into your community, so your taxable values go up. So you may generate $110,000, but $10,000 of that is new, so that's not considered an increase. So it's your existing properties that you taxed the previous year. That has to equal the same amount. And so technically your rate has to decrease. So as the rate decreases, that's commonly referred to as the rollback rate. So with the rollback rate, what is the rate, the millage rate that gets you the same amount of tax revenue that you did the previous year? So typically that number rolls down, hence rollback rate. So this year we're sticking with the same rate, 4.0192, henceforth 4 mils, and that is a slight tax increase. But it's been 23, and everybody knows recently, it's been difficult times with an inflation. We've proposed good increases, 5% increases for our employees. We've really had issues as far as recruitment for police officers and firefighters. Firefighting and police services are really the lion's share of the general fund. Probably those two numbers make up 60%, almost 65% of the general fund, those two services. And so fuel's up. Even though we have our own electric company, electric rates are up, and so the general fund pays those things. So inflation's hit us a little bit. So I think we were good to keep the same rate, but the same rate is a slight tax increase.
A new fiscal year starts October 1st. Where is the City Commission on the budgeting process?
believe it or not, Katie, we're about 80% done with the budget process. It seems like the budget lives on a staff level all year long. And so our budget manager is Brandy McDaniels, and she does an awesome job preparing the budget. She gets a break sometime between October and November, and then the holidays are here. And we really start the budget process up late December and in January, kind of reviewing stuff. So we've started this process back really holidays last year. And we go through the department heads, put in their requests, then Brandy reviews that. It goes into the hopper. It hits my desk. Probably April. I'm reviewing it with Brandy and the department head team April through June. Then by July, we have our budget workshops. So now the commission starts beating up on it, and they put their pencil to it, and we review everything, all the funds. We've got about 9 funds: electric, water, sewer, but general fund, the trim process, all of that. We did that back in July. And then the crescendo is the required public hearings. And they come out, so we hit those workshops, then the trim notice you should have received by now, it comes out early August, and then the crescendo is in September, where we have the required 2 public hearings. So we have to adopt the millage rate, and we have to adopt the budget twice.
And when will the budget officially be set?
Well, from all that other stuff, we've got a couple touch-ups to do to the budget. We'll do those touch-ups. And then the important dates for everybody to remember is the first budget hearing, which is on an off day. We normally meet in the second and fourth Mondays of the month. So the statutes, again, is pretty regulated on keeping the public hearings for all the taxing jurisdictions separate, so you can participate in everybody's process. That's important to point out. So our first budget hearing is going to be September the 15th at 5:30 p.m. here at City Hall in the Commission Chambers. And then the second hearing is going to be September 26th at 5:30 p.m. again back here at City Hall. After that reading and announcement, the budget's adopted, and then 4 days later is October 1st, and we start again.
All right, thank you so much for joining us today, Al.
Katie, my pleasure.
A reminder, City Commission meetings are open to the public. That means you can attend a meeting and have your voice heard. Budget meetings are set for September 15th and 26th at 5:30 p.m. in the Commission Chambers at City Hall. If you can't make it, you can also catch the meetings live here on Lakefront TV. We broadcast every Commission meeting live on Xfinity Channel 22, Prism Channel 21, or Spectrum Channel 497. You can also watch them live on our YouTube channel.